Hello, everyone. My name is Florian Munch, and today I'm joined by Nick Appleyard. He's the president and CEO of TriStar Gold. And Nick I will ask Nick some questions about the general gold market in particular, because I have a feeling, or it's more or less obvious, that we are in the last years entering a new gold bull market. And I'm very excited about it. And Nick, as a precious metals executive, CEO, has some expertise in this field, and I'm very glad seeing you here. And thank you for joining us, Nick.
Thank you very much for having me here today.
So maybe to start it, we have November 2020, and the U.S. election was was really big in the media. And tell us, what do you think means a possible or a likely Biden victory for the gold price and the gold environment?
It's always hard to predict, and I think it's dangerous to try and predict sometimes as well, because you never quite know what's going to happen. I think for us as an operator in Brazil, where it's a mining culture, with a mining country with a mining culture, there might be a slight positive, as in geographically, because things might get a little harder in the US, permitting wise. But on the global market for gold, I couldn't predict how it would impact. It could go either way. So, and I think maybe global issues will be more stronger influences than a Biden or a Trump administration.
Yeah, we talked about this pre-recording in the interview. It's exactly what I think. So that some short-term factors are really not so important for the general gold price development as long-term and fundamental factors are. So what would you say are fundamental things that really impact the gold price?
Right now, my concern and what I'm watching a lot is just what are going to be the downstream impacts of what we've seen this year with COVID, the interruptions into the global economy and how that is going to impact us moving forward. I don't think those impacts are going to be felt in like this quarter or next quarter. I think it's going to be 1 to 5 years out. This cycle is going to be impacted. So I think it's going to bring economic disruption. It has to at some level. And anytime you have uncertainty and disruption like that, a constant asset like gold is an important part of most people's portfolio.
And we have seen asset price inflation for many different assets like real estate. Stocks are reaching new highs, and gold obviously does that as well. But maybe there's a little bit of room to catch up for.
No, I think there's still a lot more. I think gold was a long way behind. If you look at the growth over the last few years, I think it's still got a lot of room. Gold market in itself is still very small relative to the global markets. And I think that's what I look at a lot as well, is, the global, the US stock market is, $25 trillion or something right now. Just the US stock market, no bonds, nothing else, no other country. So, you get a small reallocation to gold, and the gold market being a small, minor fraction of that, you could get big moves in either the metal or the stocks. And I think that's what gets exciting. That's the exciting side of gold, is how small it is and how quickly it can move and react to a reallocation from big funds.
Yeah, and it's really, you touched the point with the big funds. So do you see any change in the overall market, especially institutions coming into the gold business?
Yeah, when we raised some money this year, mid-year, we saw some funds coming in that we wouldn't have usually thought coming in, especially during the leaner times. They wouldn't have come into gold stocks. So we are seeing some more generalist or more sort of, global funds coming into gold stocks that, in a different time of the cycle you wouldn't see. That was the first time. So I think we are just at the thin end of the wedge of that. It's the first time I've seen it.
Yeah, that's what you feel in your own company. But in the more broader view, there might be also a change coming with the M&A cycle. So big companies always need to fill up their pipelines. Gold producers need assets in their pipeline. Do you think that we have entered something like a new M&A cycle, or is there still a room to come?
Yeah, I don't think it's started yet. It's obvious as gold goes up, if you're producing gold every quarter, you get a lift, and so you'll see these producers have had some really nice, appreciation in their share prices. That hasn't flowed through to the developers yet, which we're in that category, because the producers haven't been acquiring developers yet, but they are going to have to. They have not been doing the exploration. They're producing large amounts of gold, and they've got the share price, they've got the bank accounts to do it. So as soon as that starts, I think it'll create a little bit of a race for them to get in before the market gets too hot. And I think that's when you'll really see the price appreciate. I think that's probably the biggest factor that's going to affect developers and explorers.
Yeah.
More than the Biden-Trump administration, or more than even gold going from 1900 to 2000 or 1800. Moves like that don't really have a great impact on us. But once you start to see, I think you'll probably see it with intermediate producers to start with, acquiring developers, and then that will start a cycle that will last a while, but we haven't seen it start yet.
Yeah. And in the last cycle, we talked about this pre-recording as well. So there have been misallocations and acquisitions on the top of the market, and it turned out to be very bad timing. And it seems like big companies are a little bit cautious, or maybe even afraid to fill the pipelines, to make the acquisitions. But in the end, it boils down to, okay, we need to also acquire promising mid-tier companies or junior developers.
No, absolutely. They got they made some bad buys beforehand, and who knows what it was based on, but they haven't. And they are a little nervous about making those mistakes. One of the issues that we've realized is that you can't just have gold in the ground. You've got to have everything. And you probably noticed this week we sort of strengthened our management and board with the ESG, the environmental social governance side. Because no large company wants to make an acquisition and pay a couple $100 million for an asset and then lose $500 million because they get a road protest and it looks like they've got social problems in the company. So they want to make sure that ESG is the term these days. Environmental social governance work is all done just as well as the geology and the metallurgy and the mining. So we're strengthening that part of our company exactly to help those new executives not make a mistake.
Yeah, definitely a point that gets more important, I think, in this cycle than in the cycles before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the general gold market, or would you?
On the general gold market, I just think we still need to be thinking, like we said, small individual acts like the change in presidency and things cause blips, but the cycles run on years, and that's where you want to be looking. And they're probably a little bit more predictable than the reaction to individual events. Mm-hmm. But I would just say, if there is economic unrest coming and economic uncertainty due to what we've seen in the disruption in COVID this year, gold is going to be constant. Gold is the same as it's been for humans for thousands of years, and there's no reason to see that changing. But every other asset class changes and evolves and goes through cycles, and that is the beauty of gold, and the reason that we're in business is that we can supply something constant and it's there, always the same. You want it now, you want it later, we can supply it, it's the same. And people should decide how much they want in their portfolio at certain times. And times of uncertainty, I would sort of push people to just go from there, maybe knock their 5% gold up to 15% or whatever, whatever is appropriate for each person. Just look at that in their portfolios.
Yeah, and so there's opportunity in gold itself as an asset or as a currency, money, but obviously gold producers or gold developers have some kind of leverage on the gold price. So I would like to introduce TriStar Gold a little bit for viewers. So we have done a more extensive interview in March this year. I will link to that, and I would ask you, maybe you could focus on what was the development at TriStar Gold, to not give everyone the introduction again. So what was the development since March this year, and what are your plans going forward?
Okay, so in March we were getting towards the end of our 20,000 meter drill program on the infill for our pre-feasibility study. Obviously, COVID hit, so we had to stop drilling in April. We've got that drilling pretty well finished. COVID hit in April, so we had to stop all activities. During that downtime, we raised another $10 million Canadian, ostensibly for exploration. You know, we were fully funded for the pre-feasibility study we're doing, but we wanted to do more exploration, so we've raised this $10 million. We're now back at work. We started work again in October. We finished the last couple of infill holes, and now we've got 3 drill rigs doing exploration since October. And that is aimed at growing the size of the project, you know, in parallel with the pre-feasibility and the environmental work, moving it towards production. We're also growing the size of it as well. And the exciting bit for us is assay results are coming within a matter of weeks now. So we're right there. You know, they're at the lab, and we're expecting results any day.
So good news flow coming for TriStar Gold. Any more comments? I would give you another minute for TriStar before we wrap it up.
So for us, it's been really interesting. We've got, you know, 1.3 million ounces inferred, 700,000 ounces indicated. We've done the 20,000 meters to upgrade as much of that inferred indicated as we can. But the drilling we're doing now is to add on to that global number of, which, you know, 1.37 is 2.2 million. See if we can grow that and see where it gets to with 3 or 4. That's the plan for us right now, is how big is this project. We've been drilling, you know, what we're looking at the core, we're looking at the chips that are coming out, everything. There's been no negative surprises so far, so we're quite, you know, anticipating the results coming. But as you said, the important thing for us will be from December 1st, 2nd, whenever we get that first press release out, we'll probably have results every week, every couple of weeks then for the next 6 months or so, as we hit multiple targets across a big project, but all in the same base or on the same, you know, for the same process facility once it gets built and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. We feel like we're well positioned for development, so it's lower risk, you know, moving that forward. Plus, we got some exploration excitement as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Nick, for this interview. And everyone who would like to follow the story, there is German publications on goldgeldwelt.de and miningscout.de. And it's also possible to translate it into English. So Nick Appleyard, President and CEO of TriStar Gold. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, Florian.